Okay, welcome to another Voice Essentials live Q&A, and it is good to be here today. This is the first one I have done in, well, months actually. Probably not months, probably definitely weeks. I have been away, and that's what today's going to be about. I'm going to give you, talk you through. I went to the International Voice Congress. Voice Teachers Congress in Stockholm, Sweden, about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and had a great time of learning, and I did a couple of presentations which went really well, and so I want to tell you a bit about that. And then of course we're going to do some Q&A. I am going to have to be rather short today in the amount of talking I do because one of the reasons I haven't been on here for about 3 or 4 weeks is because not only was I away in Sweden, but when I got back I got absolutely slammed by the flu, and my voice is still in recovery mode, and so I am being very careful in how much load I place it under. But without any further ado, let's get into today's show.
Sound check. Check 1, check 2.
Well, it is good to be back, and wow, what a 4 weeks it has been. I have been, at the time when I have been probably the sickest I've been in a good couple of years with the flu here in Brisbane, Australia. We're in the middle of winter, though having visited the Northern Hemisphere, namely Stockholm, you would never know that we have a winter here in Brisbane, but nonetheless I arrived home and was just absolutely floored by the flu. I hadn't been home more than 48 hours after the long haul flight, and boom, hit me from the side, and so I'm only just starting to recover. You can hear my voice is relatively okay, but I am still being really careful with it. And so it's just taken me a few weeks to get back on top of things, catch up on my teaching load, and as you guys know, for those of you who join me on a regular basis, to find a spot where I could do this session with you. Excuse me. And so I'll try to avert from too much coughing during today's session. Hello to everyone who's already jumped in. It's good to see you all jumping in over here. You're all there. Good to see you all jumping in and having a good chat. It's good to see all the regulars, Linda and Me Too, who was the first on. Well done, Me Too. And Karen from Singwise. It's just good to have you all. Is there a reverb on? Is there? Someone's saying, hello Dr. Dan, do you have a reverb on? Yuan. I don't think so. Not on purpose. Let me see if I can fix that. I don't think I've got any reverb on. Everyone tell me if it sounds like there's a echo, echo, echo. Oh, I wonder what's going on there. Does that fix it? Let me tell me if that fixes any sense of echo. We don't want to have any echo while we're, yeah, Chris Cadian saying reverb, yuck. Okay, has that fixed it? Give me a thumbs up. Yes, that's fixed it. Me Too's telling me that's fixed it. Sorry everyone. It's been a little, hey, fixed, good. I have been, it's been a little while since I've done this, so I'm a little bit rusty. Okay, so what I thought I would do to start with is just share a little bit about my time in Sweden. I've got a little bit of like a 2-minute slideshow I want to show you. As many of you know, I'm a keen amateur photographer, and so I took a few shots while I was over there, which I thought I'd share with you. There's a few shots in there of myself presenting and what have you. Hopefully it's not too boring, but I did want to sort of give you guys an insight into what I was doing over there. For those of you who don't know, ICVT, the International Congress of Voice Teachers, is it happens every 4 years, and it's a gathering of certainly not all, of the world's best singing teachers, and they come together and they share the latest research and the latest ideas. It's an incredibly inspiring, wonderfully challenging time, and certainly I was both inspired and challenged. Sometimes it's a bit scary to learn about, to be reminded how much you don't know, but nonetheless that's a good thing, and it inspires you to go forward and to keep learning. And that's certainly what it did for me. I presented 2 papers. One was a co-authored paper with a good friend of mine from Sydney, Associate Professor Di Hughes, and we together presented a paper about kinesthetic awareness when singing, and that was quite well received. In fact, we had 2 of the leading international experts on that field in our paper, and they both were very encouraging in encouraging us with our specific area of research, which was terrific. And then on the Sunday, immediately before I came home, we presented a 4-person panel of Australian vocal teaching experts, and we talked about vocal. Our panel was called Survival of the Fittest, and it was really good. And we talked about the challenges that face singers contemporary singers in the 21st century, and certainly that's what we do here on Voice Essentials. We always talk about the challenges that you have, which reminds me, don't forget to write your questions into the comments section. Let me know what your questions are, and so that we can answer them a little bit later in the show. Today is going to be a shorter show. I've got to be very careful with my voice. In fact, immediately after this, I've got 2 more lessons to run, and so I've got to be very careful there. But I do want to answer your questions. But for now, why don't we, I've put together a little slideshow. Hopefully this isn't too much, Mum and Dad inviting you over to watch a slideshow, which can be quite boring. I've kept it to 2 minutes. But did want to give you guys some insight and share Stockholm with you, which is just, for those of you who have never been, it is a beautiful place. I was there at the height of summer, and look there, the Swedes are beautiful people. We received such good service the entire time. The conference, for the most part, was wonderfully run. You can't always say that about a conference, but in this case it was really good, and I really enjoyed myself. So here is, let me get this up so this goes for about 2 minutes, as I said, and I hope you enjoy it, and we'll come back and I'll talk you through a few more things before we answer your questions. So I just read Karen's comment there that says it looks beautiful there. I'm a sucker for historic buildings and ancient architecture, as am I, Karen. As you can see from many of those shots, it is a tremendously beautiful place. That ship that was in the middle there, some of you might be wondering what that was. That is a thing called the Vasa, and it's a massive sort of 16th, 17th century Viking come ship where it had 2 levels of gun turrets and everything. Anyway, it sank in the first 20 minutes of its voyage. They weren't overly successful in the engineering of it. Anyway, they've raised it out of the silt and put it into this massive thing. It's fabulous. Some of you are asking in the comments whether I went to the ABBA Museum. No, didn't get the chance. And in fact, in the last couple of days, I've taken to describing to many of my students who have been asking how it was and whatever, you know, what was Stockholm, what was Sweden like? And I said, well, actually, all I can really talk to is literally, in all fairness, Stockholm, more to the point, the CBD of Stockholm is gorgeous, because that's actually really all I saw besides the trip to and from the airport. I really didn't get out all that much. I only had really one day of touristing sort of stuff to do, and the rest was spent at conference, which is really good. I got to hear one of the world's leading, if not the world's leading voice scientist speak in person, which was a bit of a bucket list tick for me. His name is Johan Sundberg, and I got to hear him speak a couple of times, which is a real privilege. Wow, mind-blowing every time the man opened his mouth. There's just so much about the human voice to learn, as I know many of you can attest to. And so that was really good. I got to hear a number of good friends speak. Kim Chandler spoke, and a good friend of mine, Daniel Zanger-Borsch, spoke, and we were able to have a lot of good chats over coffee, and you know, just generally catch up. I have a lot of very close international colleagues who I love catching up with, and in the ICVT every 4 years is an opportunity for us to actually see each other in person, so that's always good fun. So as I said, I can already feel my voice, because when I do these live hangouts together, which I love doing, but I've hesitated for the last couple of weeks to do them because I know how much vocal load it is. So we're going to be quick today. We're going to jump in and answer some of your questions. Excuse me for my coughing, everyone. I saw this question up here earlier. Himanshu, I hope Himanshu, that is how I pronounce it. Hey, hashtag Dr. Dan, sometimes I feel that my vocal warm-up just went wrong and I'm quite uncomfortable in singing due to that feel. What's your point of view of that? Himanshu, it comes down to, firstly, are you warming up correctly? And it's really important that if you are warming up, that you're not working out. There's a difference. It's important to identify the difference between working out and warming up. Now, a workout can actually have an inbuilt warm-up, but a warm-up shouldn't have an inbuilt workout. The reason being is that if you are practicing, then you can be workshopping your voice, and you can build into that workshopping of the voice a warm-up, so that you are gradually warming the voice and getting it, as you're getting into the more difficult and more complex, the greater range of activities. Let me bring this back over here. And so that's a good thing to do, is to have an inbuilt warm-up in your workouts. But if you are warming up for a gig, then you don't want to be working out. You want to be warming up. And so a warm-up needs to only be between 10 to 15 minutes. I am a great advocate for warm-ups. I know that there are singing teachers, people who claim that they know a fair bit about this stuff on YouTube, who suggest that you don't need to warm up, or that a simple lip bubble will do the warm-up. I do not subscribe to that point of view. I am a great believer in preparing the muscles for use, getting blood flow into the cells so that the cells have more elasticity, and are better prepared for activity. But that being said, you don't want to over warm up either. If you're about to run the Boston Marathon, you don't want to jog 5 kilometers before you then run the marathon. And it's really important that you do the same thing with your voice in preparing for, even if it's only a 1-hour gig, then, don't spend 40 minutes doing a warm-up. A 10 to 15 minute warm-up is what's going to prepare you well for a good long gig. And so that's the first thing. The second thing, I would be looking at how you're warming up. What are you using to warm up? Don't just dive in and go gung-ho and, be suddenly working right across your range. Slowly but surely prepare the voice for use. I'm talking slowly but surely over the span of 15 minutes. The first 5 minutes, the first 3 to 5 minutes should be within the range of an octave and a half, and then the next 5 minutes spread it out to two and a half, and then out over the full octave. Stretch the voice slowly. Don't just dive straight in and suddenly you're singing across 3 octaves from the word go. That's a surefire way to not warm up well. I hope, Himanshu, that's helpful to you as you continue to workshop your your practices. Because if it's uncomfortable, then you're almost certainly attacking it incorrectly. There may be some functional or technical issues that you've got to look at, and often, and I've never not said this on here, often that's best done directly with a singing teacher. Remember, YouTube cannot diagnose and correct. YouTube can only give instruction. It can't then reflect back to you what you are then doing as being right or indifferent. So just be careful of that. It would have been good to have you there. I'm just having a look at Karen's comment here. It would have been good to have you there, Karen. It's a shame that you couldn't make it. The next one is in Vienna. Start saving your pennies, everyone. The next one is in Vienna, and it's going to be fantastic. All things being equal, I will be there. I've been at the last 3. So, yeah. So coming down, looking for another question. We're only going to take a couple more questions. So what are arpeggios, staccatos, glissandos, and how do I growl in singing? Whoa, Gavin, a lot of questions, dude. You're trying to get a few too many questions. So an arpeggio is basically just a scale. Ya is an arpeggio, notes over a phrase. Where is the other one? What was the other one? Now I've lost. Staccato. Staccato is a ya. If you were to smooth that out, we'd refer to that as legato. Ya. Glissando. Now this is where my contemporary head goes. Glissandos. Karen, help me out. Glissando. I would have to look up. Just Google glissando. If I'm not incorrect, going back to my classical training, which is over 2 decades ago, I'm pretty sure we'd be thinking about that as a pitch glide. So, yeah. So that's sort of an extended legato. It's a far more we think of it as in contemporary singing, I think we'd call that a pitch glide. I am open to being incorrect on that, though, because we don't use the term glissando in contemporary singing, and I'm hoping glides. There we go. I'm right. Ta-da! Who would have thunk it? I was pulling that from way back in my memory, so that would be what we'd be referring to as glissandos. Coming down. Wanting to give another question. How much long is the process to develop mix? Oh, here we go. One from Yuan. Dr. Dan, how much long is the process to develop mixed voice? How long is a piece of string? I often get these questions on YouTube about how long is this going to take, and and I often have. It's always interesting to me. I'll get a person who's just watched a video. One of my videos, and many of you know that many of my videos are practical, so there's a lot of exercises in them. And so they'll watch a video, they'll do the exercise, And then they'll wonder, then I'll get a question on the video, why is this not happening? Why can't I do it? Well, it's because it's going to take weeks and months for you to practice it to get it right. You know, there's no shortcuts here, people. You've got to put the time and the effort in. And I know some people don't like to hear that. Some people want the quick fix. This is not a channel of quick fix. Yeah, and I know Karen's channel is not you know, over at Singwise is not a channel of quick fix. This takes time. And, you know, there is great reward in traveling that distance of time. But certainly, you know, so you aren't, I know that you're not saying that, but, you know, how long is the process to develop mixed voice? Well, you know, learning registration, and I'm a great believer in developing each register, you know, in separation to each other and then connecting them. And the mix is often that sense of connection, not only the transitional point, but the manner in which we move between the registers and, you know, how much we have of the thyroarytenoid muscle and the cricothyroid muscle. And so it takes time. I can't give you a specific answer, but what I would say to you, and I say this to my private students all the time, I can always hear if a student's been practicing. It is so blatantly obvious to me. Why? Because, you know, if I've got a student that I know regularly doesn't practice, and then they come in a week later after one lesson, and then a week later they come in and I know they have been practicing, and you can, you know, they're often quite proud of the fact, the difference in the voice in 1 week is tangible, it's noticeable, certainly to me, and more often than not, certainly to the student. And so if you can be dedicated to your practice, and I generally encourage every second day, if you can be dedicated to that practice, you will see results. And that's what I'll be encouraging you to do. We're going to go to one more question. As I said, my voice is starting to, can you hear that? My voice, and this is educational. I don't know if you notice that certainly I can feel my fundamental frequency because my vocal folds are starting to collect fluid. They're starting to retain fluid as a protective measure for the amount of load I'm placing them under at a time when my voice is still not 100%. In fact, I would still rate it as being at around about 75, 70%. It's, you know, I mean, 2 weeks ago, I was dysphonic. I was talking like this and it was really bad. But now it's much better, but I've still got to be careful in how much load I place it under. And I'm starting to feel that retention of fluid, and I'm hearing it in the fundamental frequency. My voice is wanting to get lower. So I'm only going to answer one more question. Let's, no pain necessary, just work, patience, persistence, and directed focus practice. Amen! That's exactly it. Preach it, sister. Okay. Please reply to my question. I would if I could see it, but I'm not seeing it. Let me go back up and see if I can see your question. Sorry, everyone, I'm not. Oh, here we go. I'll answer this one for Nikolai because here we go. Right down the bottom here. Should we use pharyngeal voice when belting in the mixed voice? So I'm going to interpret, and it'll be up to you to decide whether I've interpreted this correctly or incorrectly. By pharyngeal voice, I'm thinking you're thinking about where it's placed. Certainly this is how I would interpret it. If we talk about pharyngeal voice, certainly Kenneth Bozeman, a world advocate a world expert on kinesthesia and these sorts of things, talks about the back room and the front room. When we think about pharyngeal voice, I'm thinking back room. Everything's sitting back. It's a sort of a backward placement. Should we use pharyngeal voice, backward placement, when belting in the mixed voice? Well, two things there. I reserve the term belting for shortener dominant thick fold M1 mode, and therefore I would not classify typically a mixed voice as being belt. Mixed voice, I think you're taking the edge of belt off, sorry, the edge of belt to enter mix. So now I'm happy for you to disagree with me. Registration is an area that continues to afford us a lot of disagreement, and I'm certainly not wanting to suggest anything other than that, but that's how I would think about it. So certainly in pharyngeal voicing, I don't think of pharyngeal voicing will give you certain colors, but for belt needs to be forward, it needs to be reduced air pressure, it needs to be focused, and it's certainly not mixed. So I hope that answers your question. Having the voice sit back in the throat is not going to be overly helpful as far as belt goes. So I think we're going to call it there. My voice is saying we've had enough. I think we're going to call it for today. Of course, if this is the first time you've ever hung out with us, I do try to do these once a week. I'll see how my voice goes next week as to whether I can do a live hangout with you all. I'll try my best, but again, I'm just measuring my voice and my vocal capacity to ensure that my private students who pay me good dollar to be here with them, they get first preference on how much voice I've got, and then certainly I love to spend the time with you guys. So keep an eye out. The only way that you can be notified of when I'm going live is to hit the white bell icon on the YouTube channel page. You've got to subscribe first and then hit the bell icon to make sure you get a notification from YouTube to let you know that I'm going live. And we try to do that every week. Also, just a small change, you can expect to get my pre-record video, which I do one a week. You can expect that from now on. For the next few weeks, I'm going to send it, it's going to go live on a Wednesday, because I've got a little tool called TubeBuddy that I use that has been telling me for quite some time that in fact the best time for me to post is a Wednesday, not a Thursday. And so I'm going to try that. We'll see how we go. So you can be keeping an eye out for my video tomorrow, which is quite good. I'll be interested to see what you think of tomorrow's video. It will be going live tomorrow, 5 AM Australian Eastern Standard Time, which for many of you I know is a Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. So until I see you in tomorrow's video, and we have a little bit of a chat in our comments section, always remember, I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.